Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation Tools allowed you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They distribute your podcast for you. It can be heard everywhere, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to start today. On today's podcast, I speak with Marie-Cecile Monforte. She posted something in one of the Facebook groups that we're both part of, and it sparked my interest on it. And I reached out to her. She's a photographer on the West Coast, California area, Santa Monica area, San Diego area. And she agreed to be on the podcast, and we talked about the actual post, the wedding etiquette post that she posted in one of our Facebook groups. And we also talked about her background and really just about what her wedding day flow is like and how she works with other videographers and other photographers as well. It's been a while since we've had a podcast, and it's in the middle of wedding season now. So just trying to get another podcast out so we can have some continuity and keep going with it. So without further ado, please enjoy the episode.
Started photography maybe similar to a lot of women out there. I had kids.
Oh, great. Yeah, that's how I started as well. We had kids.
Yeah, oh, good. Well, then I guess it's not just women. So I wanted to take better pictures of my kids. And ironically enough, I found my husband's old DSLR laying around. It was a Nikon D70, nice. Really old. And I started taking little pictures of my son, who was a baby at the time. And I have a photographer friend from high school who had done this Instagram thing, share your best photo and win an entrance to my workshop.
Oh, cool.
And I won.
Awesome.
And that's actually no, comment to my merit as a photographer at all, because it was a random drawing. And also, I was only one of 2 entries.
Oh, right. Well, so it gave you confidence, huh?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, anyways, that kind of started it all for me. I became, obsessed. I'm sure you know the feeling well once you sort of find it.
Yeah, you just shoot anything and everything,
Yeah.
It was
like a drug.
Yeah,
right?
I was going through some of my old photos. Yeah. I was going through some of my old photos from way back, like 2010, and just going, why did I shoot that? What did I find interesting in it? And I think it was just when I got a new lens, I was trying to shoot as much depth of field, like low depth of field as possible, because that was like new to me. I'm like, oh, let's see what bokeh is, and
exactly.
How much can I get in the frame? So,
and I think for me, my editing has actually probably changed more, or at least gotten more refined, even more so than my photography. My photography itself definitely has, but when I look back at some of my old work, I'm like, hey, that's actually a decent shot if I just totally re-edited it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I've learned too. Total self-taught in Lightroom. I didn't even know what Lightroom was. I used Photoshop a lot. I have a video background, and we would always make graphics and things to put in our video editor to like put names up and stuff like that. So I understood Photoshop, but Lightroom, the whole concept of non-destructive editing was just new to me. I had to figure out how to think differently. I don't know if you experienced that or not, but definitely different between the two.
I learned on Lightroom. I also learned to shoot in RAW. Like before I went straight from auto to manual on the camera. Yep. Like there was no playing with aperture priority or any of those other things. It was just, I learned straight in manual and then in Lightroom. And so for me, Photoshop, I started messing around with a little bit after the fact.
Yeah.
But I still do 95 to 99% of my work in Lightroom.
Yeah, me
I rarely
too.
Photoshop, only if I really have to. I can, I can, of course. I'm going to have to Photoshop that videographer out, but it's one of those shots.
Funny you bring that up. That's why we're talking today, Marie, about wedding etiquette. I do both photography and videography, and I like to communicate well with whoever the team is for photography versus videography, into DJs, into the band, just knowing that we're all on the same team and knowing that plan of attack. And it's going to happen. We do get into each other's shots. But as long as it's not like blatantly on purpose, I don't have a problem with it per se, because we're all getting the same thing. But kind of step me through what your experience is with that, and not just the Facebook post that what actually connected us, but how do you approach that with anyone?
Oh, I definitely feel the same way. You know, I had a photographer, the mentor girl who I ended up taking the workshop from. Her name is Kelly Paulson of Wildwind, and she's amazing. But I heard her say once, you know, when I show up at a wedding, my ego gets checked at the door.
Yeah.
And that just really sunk in for me, because that's such, you know, for me, such an authentic way to approach the day. I'm not there to, you know, think about what blogs I can submit these images to.
Yes.
I'm not there thinking about how I'm going to, get featured on the latest big, trendy site with images that I'm capturing for my couples. I'm purely there for them, to serve them, to capture their memories in a way that's going to feel authentic and unique to them. And really just have them be able to look back on their images and remember moments that actually happened.
Yeah.
I also rarely will intervene. I've almost never intervened to change something that's happening. If a bride's putting on a dress, I'll tell her, hey, let's do it over by this window where the light is nice. But if something's mid-happening, if there's a moment mid-happening, I'm just capturing it. I don't want to ruin that moment for my own ego's sake. Yeah. Or I don't even really feel at the end of the day that my photos are more important than the actual memories that are happening. So if, I would rather just capture the moment as it's happening. Yeah. And have that memory be authentic, even if my photo has to, quote unquote, suffer for it a little, because I'm not totally in control of how I would rather have that moment unfold. Yeah. And that's just my approach.
Yeah.
So I think that feeds into a little bit. I try to communicate and over communicate with all the other vendors so that we can work out all of our little details ahead of time so that all the moments can unfold as naturally as possible once they're actually happening, right? Someone in that Facebook post had suggested, and maybe we should get into that post. So what happened in one of my recent weddings, which, happens, is that I had a video team who, in their defense, I don't think, normally do weddings. Which is a whole separate issue, talking about why we should and why I try to communicate to my couples to hire pros, right? Yeah. Hire people that actually work in the industry, because I'm not a jukebox, right? You can't ask me as a photographer, oh, hey, I have a house that needs photographing. I'm sorry, you need to hire a real estate photographer for that, right? I have my thing that I do, which is weddings and portraits and families, but I'm not a food photographer and I don't pretend to be, right? So when you hire other vendors who may know how to work a camera, but are not familiar with weddings and how they work and wedding etiquette and all of those things, it can really affect how your wedding goes. And also the other vendors that are working on your wedding and are kind of trying to give you the best experience possible. Because for me, it's not just about the photos. It's about the experience that you're having on your wedding day too. I'm trying to ensure that my couples are having a blast and that my couples are free to enjoy their wedding day and are not being made to feel like props on their wedding day for my own egotistical desires.
You hit it right there on the head. They're not props. They're not, as much as I joke about it with the groom, saying that, well, you're basically just going to be a prop that's all about the bride for the day, but they're not. It's all about them. It is about their experience and what you're providing to them. And you hit it great, saying that it's about the other vendors too. That's mainly, at least during the ceremony. During other parts of the day, prep wise, you can always kind of redo the stuff. the ceremony,
Yeah.
I'm always thinking, where's the photographer? Where's the videographer? Because I do both. Am I in their shot? Are they getting the shots they want? If I'm in the way, they will approach me. Hey, I need this wide shot. Can you back up? Oh yeah, of course, no problem.
Oh, totally.
Just stuff like that.
And when you work with other professionals that are truly carrying themselves, in my opinion, as how professionals should, we are all there as a team. And we all understand that each of us have shots we want to get. And even if I don't know, vision strikes and all of a sudden you're inspired and you want to do something, different, get your shot and move out of the way so that the rest of the thing can happen. You don't want to just stand in one place and block someone, right? Yeah. I'm not going to come out here saying I've never blocked a videographer. I totally have. But I approach every videographer I work with saying, hey, if I ever get in your shot, I'm terribly sorry. I don't mean to. Sometimes I can get a little lost in my vision. Give me a little tap on the shoulder, tell me to move out of the way, flag me, whatever it takes. I'm here to work with you. I'm here to work together. And I'm never trying to get in your shot, even if I can sometimes get a little absent-minded about that, So.
Yeah. This past weekend I did a wedding, and the best thing the photographer did, I was doing video, was during the note reading, I said, well, we can do it a couple ways. We can have her read it, and I'll just film it because that's what I would use for cutaway shots, B-roll. And then we can do it again and she'll read it aloud because I wanted it for the audio to put into my film. And then if you would be so kind as to just time it when you use your shutter so it doesn't mess up my audio. If she takes a break, then take a shot because then I can cut that audio out. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll just leave the room. And they completely left the room because they're like, we got what we needed when she was reading it silently to herself.
Totally. And I don't want to, I have the hardest time shooting speeches even because, people make weird faces when they're talking.
Yep.
When you're trying to freeze frame that, when they're normally talking in video, it doesn't look as weird. But when you freeze frame mid talking, it can look really weird. Yeah. So I'm always trying to time my shots on that break that they take when they actually look up at the guest or when they look over, or when they laugh in between. Yep. That's when I'm trying to time my shots because someone talking isn't necessarily the cutest thing.
No, and they're looking down at a piece of paper, that doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. And those types of things, I always try and say hey, where do you want to be for this? I'm not even hey, I need to get this shot. So where are you going to be? Yeah. I always approach videographers and say, hey, where do you guys typically like to stand? I really do want to work out something together that's going to be happy for everybody. Definitely. And and exactly for getting ready, for all the various stages that especially when we do have control in a situation like that where they're reading a note. And that situation, yes, a photo or two of that moment is going to be important for me to get, but that's clearly something that's more important for video because you're getting all that audio and you're going to tie that into your story. That's going to translate to film so much better than it's going to translate to my photos,
Have you ever done video yourself?
I haven't. I've messed around a little bit with my kids and stuff. I would love to learn video. It's really hard, and I feel like I need to dedicate some good time to it. You know, I have thought about bringing video in-house just in terms of making my life easier. Because I can ensure that I'm working with like-minded people who do approach things as a team and who are happy to communicate and who will work with me to make sure we're each getting everything we need, rather than sometimes I feel like, and I'm sure you feel it as well, there's this us versus them sort of thing.
That kind of thing. Yeah,
definitely. And that's, I think, where ego gets involved, right? Because at the end of the day, if we're all just there to serve the best interests of our couples, then it's certainly not us versus them, right? It's in the best interest of the couple that everybody has a team mindset. And that comes down to even the venues. One thing that kind of drives me crazy is when you work at these venues who insist on serving us our vendor meals at after the very, very last guest has been served their meal. Yeah. And I just think to myself, why? There's all this time, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes where you're serving everybody. Nobody wants me taking their pictures during that time. Nope. They're eating. Yep. That's the perfect opportunity for me to take a break and eat my food. And that way I'm done when toast start. when first dances start, and I'm there to capture as much as possible, but they kind of get really principled about it. Like, no, you're the vendor, you're the help, you need to eat last. And I'm like, look, it's not about my ego. Like, that's not why I'm not over here trying to be a diva saying I need my food at the same time as the bride and groom because I'm special. Yeah. It's not about that. It really is in their best interest for me to eat at the same time as them, because it makes more efficient use of the time that I'm there and helps me capture more of what they actually want me to capture.
I usually talk to the vendor the day of and go, hey, can you do something if it's plated? If it's a buffet style, I just make sure that the head table goes, and then I just go cut in line. I'll just go, right? Because if it's buffet, it doesn't really matter. I'll be completely done by the time the family or whoever, like the later tables or whatever sit, and then I'm up taking pictures of the bride and groom because they're done eating mostly, and speeches are starting to kick off. So I feel kind of bad, but yeah, exactly. And I feel kind of bad about doing that, but at the same time, if I'm missing things because I'm hungry and I want to eat my meal, I'll feel even worse, at that point. So,
definitely. I definitely bring snacks to every wedding because, sometimes I just don't want to wait, and it's grueling, right? Sometimes we get there at 11 o'clock in the morning, which means I'm having a late breakfast, but by dinner time, I haven't really had lunch.
Yeah. No, there's no time for lunch.
You're on your feet. My cameras are like 8 pounds each. I'm carrying 2 of them around. Yep. It's a very physically demanding job, and you need to refuel. You need to refuel to do it well. So I'll definitely bring snacks too. But more about the mindset. Like the team mindset. Like, we're all here in the interest of the bride and groom. Like our bride and bride, or groom and groom, or whatever the case may be. The couple.
So what do you can probably get away with a lot more than what a guy can, but what do you usually wear for a wedding? And I say that because like a guy is like pretty much
I know your guys' clothes are so boring always.
Well,
I always say that to my husband when we have to get ready to go somewhere. I would ask you what you're wearing, but it's always the same thing. And I have 5 different ranges of formality in your one range of formality.
And also, I can't show up to a wedding in a dress because that would look really weird. And shorts, sometimes
you'd have to make sure the crowd's the right crowd.
Yeah, that too. And sometimes shorts are acceptable if it's outside, but if you're going to be inside in a nice place, you don't want to be the only person in shorts. And, it's either dress shirt and pants, sometimes a tie. I get away with like tennis shoes, like black tennis shoes, because I'm not going to wear dress shoes. And I did wear dress shoes the first couple years that I did do it, but I couldn't walk by the end of the day. So I'm like, oh, heck with that. No one's going to see my shoes. That's definitely
a struggle for me as well. And I actually have a heel spur. And if I have a wedding where I'm on concrete all day long, by the end of the day, I'm basically limping on my, because my heel spur is really starting to act up. And I have orthotics. I usually wear little booties, like little ankle booties, because I found that that's sort of the happy medium between, like, they're not dress shoes, which, are harder for me to put little orthotics in. But I don't know. They're not just like, I don't know, sandals or something either, right? I need something supportive. So I usually wear booties, and then usually I'll wear some sort of black dress of some sort. I have one that just sort of barely covers my knees, and then I'll always make sure I'm wearing little shorts underneath. Yeah. And then I have like sort of a long cotton, maxi dress that I'll wear. I definitely need to be comfortable and need to move. And I prefer dresses with pockets. I personally just don't like wearing pants because I just don't like how I look as much in pants. And I feel like dresses are a little cooler, it's hot. I'm in Southern California. I'm in San Diego. A lot of my weddings are really hot. So
but it's a dry heat.
Yeah, it is a dry heat. Luckily for
Wisconsin, no. Wisconsin is not a dry heat. I mean, when it's like 95 degrees and the humidity is just insane, it's like a sauna outside. It's awful.
I honestly don't know if I could be a wedding photographer in that type of a climate. I went to Chicago to visit some friends recently, and I could barely move. I was like, how do people breathe out here? It's hard. Like, you can't even breathe. It's so humid. Yeah. But I'm sure, I heard you get used to it a little bit.
Yeah, it's not bad.
but yeah, but I have shot out here and it was 117 degrees. So, and one day, and oh my gosh. And that was actually also a wedding where I was on day 3 or 4 of the stomach flu.
Oh my.
So I was like better, but I wasn't eating solid food yet and was like trying to survive on like a blended banana drink, you know, and it was 117 degrees and it was terrible, but at least it's
awful.
dry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I hired an extra assistant that day just to fetch me water and carry my stuff.
That's another thing to say too is do you shoot solo or do you always shoot with a second?
I always like to shoot with a second. I do offer, the way I actually structure my sort of services is I have collections that include a second photographer and include an engagement session and also include like a print credit. So we can start working on an album or something. But I also have an a la carte menu. So I have had some couples book just me. And I feel fully confident in my ability to capture a wedding day just me.
Yeah.
But I can't be in 2 places at once.
Exactly.
So, you know, if you want getting ready of both, you know, both of the people, then I need to bounce back and forth. And you basically need to almost like hire me for longer for the same amount of footage because I can't be in 2 places at once, you know?
Yeah.
But also in addition to that, I kind of like the camaraderie of having a second shooter with me. You know, I feel like we're working together on these things. And the second shooters I hire are all professional wedding photographers in their own right. I shoot for them as well, right?
Yeah.
Like my main second shooter now, my first wedding I ever shot, I shot for her. And she's now my main second shooter.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's very much like we lean on each other. And, you know, should I roll an ankle or something on the wedding day? Hey, I have a professional wedding photographer that can step in for me. It's almost like insurance too. Should one of us somehow like miss the shot, like the kiss or something, you know, which, you know, doesn't really happen, but just in case, you know, and I just like it. I kind of like the teamwork of it. And my second shooter approaches the day very much like I do. You know, when we're working for each other, we're there to assist as well. So like if I forgot a lens in my bag, you know, her ego's not too big to just go run and grab it for me.
Exactly.
You know, like she can function a little bit as assistant, a little bit as mostly a second shooter as well. And I do the same when I'm working for people. I'm just there to work for you. I don't have some sort of ego about, oh no, that's an assistant's role. No. I will hold your light stands. I will go fetch your lenses.
Yeah.
You need water? Let me get you some water. Yeah. I mean, that's just how I approach the day, you know?
And I mostly shoot with friends. They're my friends, but they're also great videographers, and I've known them since high school. So we just have a good rapport, and they make fun of me because I'm like the boss. But you know, it's when it all comes down to it, they understand. Yeah, go do it because I'm the boss. You know, that kind of stuff. So, but no ego at all because I take the ribbing just as much as them, and it's kind of a nice back and forth instead of working with someone that I know is a professional, but I don't know how I need to treat them off the bat. You know, it's so hard finding, it's so hard finding somebody that you can trust in that way. You know, so when you find somebody, you have to keep them and treat them well. You know, I'm big on that.
Definitely. I always like split my tips too. Like if I get a tip, I always split it. And every time she's like, I didn't even know you got a tip. You didn't need to do that. I was like, girl, I needed to do that.
Yeah.
You know, you worked just as hard as I did today. Like the fact that they gave this to me doesn't mean anything. We did that together, you know? So, I really like working with, I have one girl who I work with most of the time. And then I have a handful of friends who I can count on if she's not available.
Definitely.
And, I think having a key second shooter is really important because you need to find someone too. Not only do they shoot in your style and, you know, like take photos that you can use, but also personality wise.
Yeah. Style aside, you can show them how to set their camera up, where to go, how you shoot, teach them that. But if your personalities don't jive, there's no point.
And not only with me, but also with how they relate to the guests, right?
Yes.
Like I can't have a really shy, mousy second shooter go in with the groom and all the groomsmen. They'll eat her alive. Yeah. You know, like I need a girl who can hold her own. And that's also just kind of how I am. Like I will, kind of banter with the grooms a little bit if I'm in there. Like, you've got to be able to, have some fun and be a little sarcastic.
Yeah. And sometimes you need to start the fun, because a lot of, depending on the personality.
Boring.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
They're all sitting there on their phones or sitting around like not doing anything, watching TV. It's like, come on, guys, you got to do something here. Ladies are usually pretty good at that. The ladies side with the bride and everything, they're really good at that. But the guys, you kind of got to give them a little kick. I've found. Definitely.
Definitely. And I think that, even just with how your second shooter interacts with your other guests, like, I had a second shooter once complain to me that the bride's sister or brother, I don't even remember, someone pulled her aside and asked for a photo of her and her husband, and she got all like offended. I was like, really? That's
second
our job,
shooter
right?
got offended?
Today, like, who cares if someone pulls you aside and takes a picture? Take their picture.
Take the picture.
They're important to our couple. It is not about you and your ego, Yeah. Like, so I don't know. I think that who you have representing your brand to all the guests is really important. How they're going to communicate with your guests, the level of professionalism that they're carrying themselves with, the level of energy that they're bringing to the table. I consider myself really energetic on a wedding day. I can be really assertive when I need to be, like for family photos. Family photos. I can definitely be assertive and, herd the cats and tell them all to remove those transitional lenses and all of that. But I do it in a way that's fun and happy and energetic and doesn't have them hating me at the end of the day, even though I'm basically bossing them around and telling them what to do.
Family photos are my favorite when I do video. And they can be, because I don't really shoot it, but it can be a little tedious when you're doing photography, definitely.
Oh gosh,
especially when
86-person group in a wedding
when you have a huge group,
86 people, and none of them wanted to listen to me. Like, none of them. They all just sat around, like, stood there talking, and I'm like, yelling, trying to get them to just get into some sort of position. And then I finally get them in position, and there's a bunch of purses and stuff off to the side. So I run over to move them real quick, literally run, because I run on wedding days. And then I've got someone going, grandpa here is 96 years old, right? And I'm like, people, I just spent 10 minutes, like, trying to even get you to listen to me. And now it's my fault that you guys are standing there? Like, are you kidding me? And you have to take that in stride and smile and be like, I'm working as fast as I can. 1, 2, 3, smile,
And herding cats is perfect, because if you can make all the announcements that you want, but there's always going to be someone that had to run to the bathroom, or their kid's doing something, or, just something like that. And then you're sitting there, waiting for them. And it could be 117
and then
degrees.
Everyone's looking at you like, it's hot out here.
Yeah.
I know. Trust me. I know it's hot out here.
If I don't have a second, I always ask someone to be assigned to me to get everyone rounded up. So then at least it can be like, well, Susie is doing that. We're waiting on them. She's rounding them up. And then they kind of go, oh, okay, it's not your fault now, because Susie's the one that has to get everybody rounded up.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I always do that because I don't know these people,
Oh, yeah.
Even if I did have a second, they don't know them either. So we need someone. Yeah, we have a sheet of names, but that means nothing in the grand scheme of things, because you can yell out all those names and nobody knows. But if you have someone that knows everybody's face, I always have them grab them, do that. So
definitely. What have been some of your experiences with vendor teams or other wedding etiquette kind of not really being followed and messing up the day?
Well, I don't think I've had any bad experiences, because I am so straightforward and proactive in contacting all my vendors. When I'm the photographer, I don't really, because I can kind of step back. But if there's going to be another videography group besides me, I will contact them and so, hey, let's get coffee, let's talk. When I'm the videography team, I take it upon myself to contact the band, the DJ, the church if needed, the I'll talk with the bride's mom and dad if I have to. I will talk with the photography team. The It's kind of a rural area here, so I know most of the venues. So I made that initial contact with them, and now they kind of know me, so they know what to expect. Especially with serving during dinner and stuff, because photography, you can kind of shoot around it. You know, if you click and they got in the way, you have another chance. But if we're filming a speech and someone's trying to do the duck walk or something like that, you're going to be in the shot. You know what I mean?
I've seen that. Yes. And it was like the bride and groom were literally kissing right after a toast. They had just clunked their glasses and were kissing, and off goes this little server right behind them. I'm like, he couldn't have waited like 5 or 7 seconds before like walking through. Like, I get there in a hurry, but that was like such a moment, you know, all eyes on them, you know.
And sometimes it's, you know, it's not their fault. They're just trying to do their job, you know. And
of course.
I always look at it that way.
It's just a matter of training, right? Like, it's on the venue to educate their servers that, like, hey, try not to walk right behind the bride and groom when something important's happening. Maybe try and find a way around them, you know? And to like answer your question more, to thwart that ever happening, that's why I'm doing this podcast with individuals like yourself, and just trying to get it out there. You know, not many people listen to my podcast, but the more that I can put out there, the better it is. And I guess I feel better about myself that way too. So, but like, you're doing your part.
Yeah. You know, and the more I can do to educate everyone else around me and educate myself, and the better it is. You know, you can't have too much of this. You know, that's the way I look at it. And there's other podcasts that are bigger that are doing a great job as well. And, you know, I encourage all my clients to go and listen to my podcast. And then I suggest a couple other podcasts, because reading things online, reading a book, no one has time for that, you know, to sit down and read a book. You can listen to a podcast while you're driving to work, or you can listen to a podcast when you're going to the grocery store. It's so much easier than picking up a book or having to actually research things. So the more I can do with that to make their day go by so much easier, the better it is for everyone, I think. So
yeah, I mean, I think that it's so beneficial for both clients and other vendors, right? It's great for other vendors to learn tricks to how to communicate, or sort of what I guess industry standard is maybe a little bit of an overused term, but, you know, sort of what is generally somewhat expected at a wedding day, and sort of tips and tricks for how we can all work together. And it's also really important for the couples to think about those things. Like, one thing that I think couples don't really think about when they're choosing photo and video teams is like the style. Like, are you the type of photographer or videographer that is on a 35 or wider, and you're, you know, 2 feet from the couple the entire day?
No. Right?
Is that your style?
No videographer should be that style, in my opinion.
Well,
you know, for like prep stuff, yes. But for the ceremony, reception, things that you need to be back far of, you need to have some longer zoom lenses, you know, definitely.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do love a 35, but yeah, you have to step back and you have to give everybody their space. And you don't want to be so like obtrusive that you're in everyone's faces all day. And, you know,
there's a time for it.
At the end of the day, it also impacts, like, if both of you are trying to be that at the same time, that's going to get really hard. Right.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite videographers that I really like working with, more because of his personality, because he's just really chill and easygoing and doesn't have a big ego and, you know, all that. So I refer him all the time. He tends to shoot everything, maybe not everything, but almost everything on a 70 to 200.
Okay.
And he'll sort of stand off to the side and just, you know, maybe get a little farther back if he wants to, and stand off to the side. And it doesn't bother him if I'm on a 35 and I'm only 5 or 6 feet from the couple, because I'm not really impacting his work. Right. And But that said, we definitely trade off and give each other turns to get what we need. And we sort of look at each other like, did you get what you need there? You want to step in,
Yeah.
And,
another thing,
but it's interesting how the lens choices can affect the style. And I'm not trying to tell anybody what they need to shoot with. And I don't want anybody telling me what I need to shoot with, but you do need to work together in terms of managing that and, give each other space. And it's the couples don't really know how lens choices and photographic style are going to impact how they feel on a wedding day. Yeah. They see a real cool film or some real cool photos that they really like. They don't know how they're made. They don't know what goes into making those photos, and so if you've got a video team that does a lot of the circling around, for example, couples don't know that. What if that makes them feel dizzy or something? Yeah, right? And those are the types of things that I think couples, if there was, an easier way to educate people, this is how these shooting styles, work on your wedding day, right? Because I've seen couples want those really quote unquote epic shots, but then because I've worked, for other photographers as a second photographer, and they're trying to, create this epic shot that's going to get them featured in so-and-so blog or magazine. But then on the day of, the couple doesn't like how that feels at all. No, they don't like that feeling of there's this whole production around me and I'm a prop in the middle of this thing. Yeah. But they do like that photo. Yeah. So there's a bit of education that needs to happen from the client perspective on this. If you want this type of footage or this type of photo, you kind of need to be willing to put up with this type of behavior or this type of experience on your wedding day. So, you know what I'm saying?
So you bring up a great point there. That I've made that mistake when we first started with video. We went all out. We bought these huge gimbals, and not only were they tiring to use, they made the couple feel very uncomfortable. You put in this huge things like the size of a tire. Think of holding a spare tire. That's basically what it was.
I've seen them.
Yeah, holding a spare tire in front of someone's face. So then we kind of got rid of that because, yes, it gave us a great picture. It was hard to use. That was the main reason why, because I just got tired throughout the day. It was hard to use, and they just didn't feel comfortable. So we moved to a smaller gimbal, and it was a handheld gimbal, and we could get the shots we wanted, but that was still tiring to use, and they just didn't really feel super comfortable. It was better. The results I got was better, but still not the super comfortable feeling. So then I just switched to, I'm not going to use the gimbal at all. My second might use it for a couple shots, but the majority of the day we would shoot on the gimbal. Now I just kind of went, no, we don't need that. So I just use a monopod. And even having the monopod, in my opinion, made them feel a little bit uncomfortable because you're still walking around this big pole attached to the camera, and you're bumping into stuff and hitting the walls and stuff. So the past couple weddings that I've did last year and this year, I've done 90% handheld. And the results I've gotten out of that were, my footage is a little bit shakier, but I have a nice stabilized camera body. The GH5 is great. But the emotions you get out of the posing and stuff like that of the couples is so much better because you're just standing there just like the photographer with the camera shooting that. You don't have this big rig. You don't have this big spare tire you're holding. I still have the monopod there because I will use it to get a more stable shot. But for the most part, I'll shoot the entire day handheld, and I've been getting great results from these past couple weddings that I've done last year and this year. And I think I'm going to keep doing that because it's all kind of circles back is about what do they perceive on that day. And
what are they going to remember about you from the wedding day experience? Exactly. Because so often I think that your experience with somebody can overpower the actual product that they deliver, right? Like if the product is slightly subpar or maybe totally not up to our high, not every wedding can be your best wedding, right? Yeah, we all want them to be our best. We want every single wedding to be our absolute best wedding, but not every wedding can be your best. And there's definitely going to be times where you're like, I wish I had done this differently, or if I'd only shifted a little bit, or I don't know, I'm my own worst critic. But I feel like if the couple has a positive experience with you and feel like you took how they feel and how they were feeling into consideration, that's going to overpower. And that's really important, especially on their wedding day. I want them to have fun.
Yeah.
I want them to be in the moment. I want them to, not feel like their wedding day was this. I mean, it always is a big production no matter what, right? But I'm trying to bring the heart back into it a little bit, and there's definitely times when couples are sort of, or maybe I've got a bride who's having some anxiety, or, some family drama happens, right? And there's so many different things that can go wrong on a wedding day, so many different expectations. And I feel like a lot of times my job is to just help bring people back to what's important, why you're there, and I want them, when I'm out doing couples romantics with them or for first look or whatever, I want them to allow themselves to get a little lost in that moment. I want them to allow themselves to feel the true weight of what's happening there in a real way. The fact that they're committing their lives to each other. This is the day that they've dreamed of. And I don't want them to be lost in the flowers and where the coordinator is and where did that little detail end up. But I don't want them to get lost in all of that.
I always
and the
suggest
less person I can be, the better, the more they're going to be able to actually feel those moments.
I always suggest to the brides that are a little bit more DIY and they don't have a planner or anything is, make sure you're planning with one of your bridesmaids or one of your best friends or whoever, so they know exactly what should happen during the day. Because the biggest thing that happens is everyone's asking the bride, where should this go? What should we do with this? What should we do with that? And that's like my biggest pet peeve during the day. I'm like, she's the last person you should be asking all that stuff. Just go and do it, or ask someone else, or have your mom should
or they're
know.
getting phone calls for directions because they misplaced the invitation. I'm like, you are not calling the bride right now on her wedding day to figure out how to get there. What is wrong with you? But yeah, I even had that recently with last month. I had a wedding where the
everyone
bride
happens.
Her auntie. Yeah, well,
even if there's a planner.
If you're gonna do anything for yourself, get yourself a planner. Like bare minimum, day of coordination. Bare minimum.
But even if there is a planner or coordinator, they always ask the bride. The planner's standing right there. Yeah, it's planner standing right there.
At this wedding, and finally I went outside and I've got the bride. The bride is having a full-on panic attack. We had to have her hair and her makeup redone twice. So she had her makeup done a total of 3 times on her wedding day because she cried it off both other times because she was having a total panic attack. And little auntie, bless her heart, who was trying to step up to this coordinator role that she was sort of thrown in, she kept going to her with questions. And so at one point I took the auntie and the bridesmaids outside and I said, look, here's what we need to do. I know that, she's unhappy, but she's overwhelmed right now. And it's time for us to make executive decisions, right? We all each need to now own the responsibilities that we've been given for today and run with them. Make executive decisions at this point. I'm channeling, what's his name? Tim Gunn from Project Runway. Make it work, people, right? That's what I kept saying to them. We just need to make it work now. Do not ask the bride any more questions. If you have a question about this or that, choose. You have been empowered with this role today. So step up and be that role today. Because we cannot ask the bride a single more thing.
Literally after the ceremony, nothing matters anymore. It doesn't matter. It's party time. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters anymore. But
all that nervous is leading up.
Yeah. And maybe it's just because I've seen it so many times. I'm a little immune to it. So I'm always the calmest person in the room. But it's just I keep telling them, don't worry about it. Just let it go. Let it go. And it's easy to say when it's not your thing to let go. But, there's just so many things that you need to do to calm that situation, customer service. But
I had to hug it out with a groom that I was second shooting once, had never met the couple, and the groom got into a big fight with his dad. His dad was a bit older, and there was a big age difference between him and his wife and the groom's mom. And the coordinator made the rookie mistake, and she was an older coordinator, so I don't know how she made this mistake. But the coordinator made the rookie mistake of addressing the dad as grandpa. Oops. Now, dad, normal people would blow this off, chalk it up to, well, I did marry much younger, you know.
Laugh it up. Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Laugh it off. No. Dad took it really personally, you know, was like, I don't want to see that woman again ever. Groom was like, wait, I need her. She's my planner, you know, and stormed off. FUs were involved. Wow. Hotel doors slamming were involved. And this was right before I had to take Groom down for first look. As I said, I'm a second shooter this day. So I get him in position, and it's still all over his face. He is just in it. He's in it so thick right now. And I'm like grabbing him on the shoulders, and I'm shaking him. And I'm like, okay, just shake it off. Like, your bride's about to come walk down those stairs. She's going to look more beautiful than you've ever seen her in her life, except maybe when she wakes up in the morning and is fresh faced. But other than that, you know, she's going to look more beautiful. And today's going to be about you guys. Today's not going to be about any of that just happened. And then it almost made it worse, because he was like, I know, and she's going to see it written all over my face, and she's going to get all upset, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh no, what do I do? So I look at him and I'm like, do you need a hug? And I was like, kind of half kidding, but like, I knew I would follow through if I needed to. And he was like, yeah, I do. And I sat there and hugged this man I had just met, like, I don't know, an hour earlier, and just hugged him for a good 30 seconds, minute, sort of rubbing his back, you know? And I was like, okay, like, you're going to be good, right? And he's like, thank you. That really helped. And I was like, that's, I think, one of the first moments I realized how much more we are than photographers and videographers on the day. Story. We are the experts. We are the experts that they turn to, that know about all this stuff, that know how all this is going to go down. We've seen it all. And I don't judge, because guess what? I have been there. I had some of my own family drama happen on my wedding day. Nothing crazy, but definitely some stuff that I was not happy with on my wedding day. And I know, looking back, that I was not my most graceful, gracious, pleasant self on my wedding day. And if people judged me for who I was on my wedding day necessarily, then, I mean, I was toward the end, but of course in that getting ready period, you know, you're not necessarily your best self.
It's always a formula.
You're getting ready.
Yeah, it's always a formula. There's always
expectations.
I can always see it happening. And going back to what you said about we do know how it's happening and what's going to happen next, and we've seen it all before. That's a really fine line to walk. Yes, you're the one with the most experience in the room, but yet you don't want to make it feel like it's
definitely,
you know, it's not a big deal to you. You know, like you've seen it all. You don't want to do that.
Their one wedding day.
Yeah, exactly. So that's always a hard thing for me to do too, where I don't know if I pull it off or not, but for the most part, I like to think I do. But it's always in the back of my mind. Okay, you've seen this before. The mom's crying. The mom said something, or, you know, the groom is upset, like you described. How can you deal with this to make it a unique experience for them? Because it's not a unique experience for you. You know what I mean?
I think you need to validate their feelings, right? Yeah. You need to validate that what they're feeling is real and true and justified and all of those things. But you need to have them trust you and your expertise to help get them through it and pull them along and get their day back.
And it always goes back to building that relationship with them. I always friend them on Facebook. I always friend them on Facebook, text them multiple times during the whole experience, just building that trust, you know, and the more trust you can have, the better.
That's actually one of the main reasons I like doing an engagement session.
Yes, exactly.
Because it's such a good way for us to know each other. Yeah.
They know what the experience is going to be beforehand.
Photos and they love how they turn out. Then all of those weird things that I asked him to do when I told him to whisper his breakfast cereal into her ear, and all those little, you know, weird little prompts that I do to get the natural images that I'm after, they all make sense. And they go, oh, okay, she gets it. She knows what she's doing. Just trust her, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And I will carry you through the wedding day. I mean, if I need to, I'm pinning curls, I'm zipping dresses, I'm pinning boutonnieres, like I'm hugging it out. Like we do what we do as professionals to get them through the wedding day and to help make sure that they have a great experience. Because for me, it really isn't just about photos, you know?
Awesome. Yeah. Well, this has been great, Marie. And it says a lot about a great photographer when I just reach out randomly because I saw a post on Facebook about your bad wedding day experience and want to talk about it, to having almost an hour conversation about the wedding day and wedding etiquette. So I could talk to you multiple more hours, but I don't think my listeners would have fun with it.
You think they're getting bored yet?
Yeah. If anybody wanted to reach out to you, how would they find you? Do you have Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. It's Marie Monforte Photography. That's Monforte. And that's my website too,
Awesome.
www.mariemonfortephotography.com. And I'm always happy to chat.
Okay,
and
cool.
I was flattered when you reached out to me. Because I think it's important as industry colleagues that we do reach out to each other and we do communicate, and we're all in this together.
Yep,
we all got to
definitely.
help each other, lift each other up, hold each other to good professional standards, and help each other out.
All right.
So I thought it was fun chatting with you. Thanks so much for reaching out and having.
Thank you. And I will put all your contact information in the show notes.